And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. I'm Gary Kaltbaum, your host. Hey, thanks for being with us today. Glad you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy that you are listening. November 18th, Tuesday, 2025. Hope you're having a good day. As always, serious talk on everything that affects you. We'll do the markets, the economy, your job, your industry, everything that affects it out of the Morlocks in D.C. No, really. And, of course, the debt and the deficits and the scams and shams and corruption and the BS and the obfuscations, big word from Gary, and whatever else comes to mind. If you do not get this radio show in your city, we'll post it at GaryK.com. We'll also post it on our Twitter feed, which is now X. And if you don't, I should just say X. And if you don't follow us on X, you should. We'll also post it on the YouTube channel, BizTV, as well as other podcast apps. And if you'd like to email me, just be nice. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Dow was down 500, the S&P 55, NASDAQ 275, NASDAQ 100, 296. Let me repeat that. Dow was down 500, 498.5. S&P was down 55, NASDAQ 275, NASDAQ 100, 296. Advanced declines were positive today on the New York and even on the NASDAQ. What? How can that be? Well, you had a little bit of the opposite day today. So let me explain for all that need to know, which is everybody. Technology has not 100%, but has taken over the big indices in a big way. They are a huge portion of the big indices. And if they have a bad day, but the rest of the market have a good day, market's still going down because of how big they are. We've had days, listen carefully, where the Dow was up 500, and I came on this show and said the broad market was terrible. Let's use the S&P. And that's because the S&P has so much of the tech. Today was a brutal big tech day, while other areas of the market were green. For example, Microsoft down 14 today, Costco down 17. And yes, these are high price, but those are some pretty good numbers. Tesla down 7 and change. Amazon down 10 and change. Semiconductors down 154. So Micron down 13. SanDisk down 20. AMD down 10. ASML 16. KLAC down 10. Big portions. And of course, and then there's earnings season. Earnings season. Earnings season. Home Depot down 21. Down 21 today on a worsening outlook. Down 21 today this is Home Depot. In case you don't know, they do about $160 billion of revenues. And of course, if Home Depot goes, so does Lowe's. But what was up today? Food and beverage and tobacco, insurance. They bounced the withering financials. You had a couple of restaurants up. Believe it or not, some lesser tech was up today. Some were down. But it just shows the amazing concentration in the few that make up so much of those big indices. You ready for this one? The Russell 2000 was up today. The small caps, the mid caps were up today, with the Dow down 498 and the S&P down 55 and the NASDAQ 275 and the NASDAQ 100 down 296. Unbelievable. And I must tell you, the companies or whoever they are that keep these indices and the Dow need to fix this up. When I tell you that Goldman Sachs is one of the 30 Dow names, and so is Verizon, but a 1% move in Goldman Sachs is 20 times more important to the Dow index than Verizon, something got to go. Something got to change. The problem is I don't know how to change it when companies are loath to really split stocks anymore. I mean, hell, we got Booking Holdings at $4,800. KLAC at $1,100. Netflix just did a 10-for-1. By the way, I was watching Netflix today. I'm thinking, that's not up much. But he just did a 10-for-1 yesterday. It was up $3.80 today. That's $38. So just letting you know, the makeup of the markets, you could have a good broad market day and still have a nasty technology day. And by the way, in the Dow, Amazon was 65 Dow points. Microsoft was 85. NVIDIA was 35. And of course, Home Depot, 21 points, 145 Dow points, approximately. I'm rounding around. So again, my middle screen today was green, except for the semis, which is on the right side of the screen. But the indices, down 500, 275 and 296 NASDAQ 100 and S&P 55. Amazing makeup. And I have to adjust based on that myself. I have to recognize that 20 stocks in the S&P could get trashed and 480 be flat or up and have a down day. And of course the NASDAQ 100. And you know the names. NVIDIA reports after the close tomorrow. I have absolutely no clue what they report. I'm sure they're going to beat. I'm sure he's going to say good things. I'll give it that. That I'll give. But what I'd like to do today is I just put together some things. And we have been warning you a little bit on what's been going on with debt and these artificial intelligence stocks, to where we ask the question, how does Oracle announce a monstrous number and the stock goes from 345 to 220? Well, all I keep reading about is the debt. CoreWeave, $185 down to 75, and many a pundit loved the stock. And I saw somebody talking bullish today on it, and I'm like, aren't you down like 60 some odd percent? So let me read a few things to you. There's a company called Anthropic. They just say they're committed to buying $30 billion of Azure Microsoft compute capacity. Microsoft is going to invest $5 billion in Anthropic. NVIDIA committing to invest $10 billion in Anthropic. We've been talking about this circular financing, vendor financing. And I'm just reading this and I'm like, wait a minute here. One's buying into the other who's going to buy into each other. That's just one. That's just one. That's just one. Next up, CoreWeave has bonds. A lot of debt being put out. They're now triple C's, and it just dropped from 105 to 95, due in 2030. Up next, we'll keep going with this. Not to scare you, we're just reporting the news. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge. So, I didn't even know this, but CoreWeave had to pay 9.25% to float bonds due 2030. And typically, short-term bonds should not get trashed, and they're getting hit. And I don't know if I'd use the word trashed, but they're getting hit. Let me continue. CoreWeave, spending $310 million on interest expense against $52 million in operating income, borrowing money to pay interest on previous loans. The problem: Microsoft accounts for 67% of revenue, but is now building its own AI chips and data centers. OpenAI has $22 billion contract with CoreWeave, but can terminate if not delivered. Meta signed a $14 billion contract, but sold $30 billion in bonds to build its own facilities. All three major customers could become competitors. NVIDIA is CoreWeave's investor, customer, and vendor, owning $4 billion in shares. The company is building data centers for customers who are simultaneously building their own facilities to compete with them. And I keep getting asked, why do you think the stock's getting hit? Again, we're just reporting the news. That's all. That's all. Let's skip around. Nah. Let's not skip around. We'll get back to other things. Oracle. The betting on insurance to cover issues. The insurance to buy is going higher in price. This is just the market. Just reporting the market. And we're not picking on. It's the market. It is being reported, and this is a true report, data centers are standing empty. Demand? We worry about bubbles. There's a startup called Thinking Machines. Thinking Machines Lab. They're in early talks to raise another round of funding to go public at a $50 billion valuation, more than 4 times from a few months ago. They have no product, no customers, and no revenues. I'm just reporting the news. And we're reporting it because, man, a lot of this just reminds We're also hearing that the New York Fed has convened a meeting with banks about worries about strains in money markets. Now remember, this is all going on while the market's been withering a lot of these names. Again, the broad market had a decent day today, but the broad market's just bouncing. I can tell you, hey, some restaurants are up today, but they've been bludgeoned. So just letting you know, we're just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together on why very popular stocks are getting smoked. Now, to be fair, Micron and SanDisk and Seagate and Western Digital have all had good move up. They're pulling back right now, but they've been strong. I'm talking about the names that had to go from my front screen to my left screen. I'm talking about what the hell's going on with Oracle? No, really. How could that be based on their numbers? So we're just, no matter what, anything's trading below, we're not touching. We're avoiding. We believe in leadership, uptrends, but there's a lot of downtrends in these areas right now. And we read everything with skepticism. We read everything with skepticism. We trust nothing that anybody writes. But when we look at these stocks on top of what's being written, you take a pause. And we'll see how it plays out. At the very least, we know what to avoid. In a very, very tricky market over the last weeks. One of the trickiest I've seen in a very long time. Always optimistic, but more realistic. And we'll have NVIDIA tomorrow after the close. That's the head of the table. They will not say anything untoward. They will talk a big game. We'll be watching what the big institutions do. Will be I know what they're going to say. They're going to talk big. Very interested to see what the semiconductor equipment stocks do. Not just what they say. We know what they're going to say. That's the story. Up next, more on the markets. Whatever else comes to mind, I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge. And welcome once again to Investor's Edge. I don't know if this is making fun of myself. So last night, I caught a little bug. You know, when you're in New York at 25, 30 degrees, little rain on you, get back to Florida, and it's 70 degrees. You catch these, and you're on airplanes back and forth, you catch a little bug. So like at 3 in the morning, Winston rolls over on me and wakes me up, and I'm like, can't breathe well. I took some NyQuil. Do you know I was like wasted all day today from taking NyQuil at 3 a.m. in the morning? I had no idea. It says NyQuil for night. Holy crap. I was wasted. And I'm told I don't do drugs. I don't drink. Ever. What did I have this year in drinking? I think I'm beating last year. Last year I had 5 drinks. This year I've only had 3, I think. Yeah, I think I've had 3 this year. So I guess my tolerance, I don't know what's in it. I was like wasted. I was walking around like a mummy. I'm all good now. That's it for the NyQuil. Holy smokes. And I mentioned it to the peeps, and they were like, yeah, NyQuil. NyQuil. All right, now that I made fun of myself, I think. I'm not going to talk the president today. I'm not going to say much good. He met with the head of Saudi Arabia, and you can go read about it. Some of the things. I wish I had his ear. I really do. But he wouldn't listen anyhow. I could really help him out big time. A couple other things. I have a little worry. In case you don't know, Fannie Mae, you know Fannie Mae has just eliminated its 620 FICO score minimum, I guess for certain type of home ownership. So it's guaranteeing riskier mortgages to borrowers with not so good credit. And of course, this came down from the administration to make housing more affordable, but this is utter stupidity. Utter stupidity. You know what happened in 2008. Anybody that could breathe could get a mortgage. I told you about somebody I knew, near and dear to me. Had 10 grand in the bank. Wasn't making a lot of money. Got a $280,000 mortgage with nothing down on a house that the loan was only $250 and pocketed $30 grand. They were just giving away the store. We do not want to lower standards in an elevated price for homes situation. Simple logic. If you don't have great credit, you don't have a lot of money, and you buy a home and prices of the home comes down and you know it, you're going to drop the keys off and it's going to lead to a vicious cycle. Just like the stupidity of the 50-year mortgage, which, by the way, that's dropped out of sight. And we told you it would. The best idea to give this administration on affordability of homes, do nothing. The market will fix it over time and fixed the mistakes of Jay Powell. The worst Federal Reserve person ever, times 10. And he came after Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke. Do nothing. If you can't afford a house, you're not buying it, you're renting. Fantasy prices are coming down. Let them come down. And we'll hit a point of equilibrium eventually, maybe in 2 years, maybe in a year, maybe in 5, don't care. Let the market be. Of course, they will not listen to me. They will not listen to me. All this talk now on health care. Just remember, the name of Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. The Marxist Party and Obama promised it would make health care affordable. They told us our premiums would come down. You have Jonathan Gruber on video. One of the architects said they had to lie to the public, and they could lie because we're stupid. But now they claim we have a healthcare crisis due to soaring costs. Those are the same Marxists. So why would more government help if government's the cause of the problem? It won't. Just letting you know. Remember, we're the most logical people on earth here. Affordable Care Act, my arse. Just remember, they're now telling you there's a health care crisis. The same people who told you the Affordable Care Act will cure it all is now telling us there's a health care crisis. Their act. We give credit to the president on this for not giving in on the government shutdown, on what they want to do with more of our tax dollars for this boondoggle. See, we're equal weighting here. Not happy with the president today and how he handled a bunch of things, but we like what they did holding out. Just want you to remember all this. Why? I got news for you. There is a decent shot they're going to have the House, the Marxist Party, come 28. That means they get all the committees. The good news is they won't get a lot done, but they'll have a lot more power. And as much as we are not thrilled with the tariffs and other things going on right now economically, the Marxists are nightmarish, including this guy that's going to be the mayor of New York City. Including that guy. So just a little this and that for you today, ladies and gentlemen, on a day where my middle screen is all green, while the Dow dropped 500 points. NASDAQ 275, NASDAQ 100, 296, and by the way, the market attempted to rally. It was much worse. It was much better. The NASDAQ at its low today was actually down 475. But at around 240 was 22,639, was only down like 70. And then fell off into the close. The Dow was trying also. The Dow was 46,367 in the last hour. Dropped 270 points. Late to be down 500. Was down most of the day. And of course, Home Depot certainly not helping. And for that, we will be visiting 5 Home Depots this weekend. There's about 5 within 45 minutes where we live. Just to get a feel. Actually, I'm going to go visit one tonight, just to get a feel. Up next, this, that, and the other thing, or whatever else. I'm Gary. This is the one and only Investor's Edge. Da-da-da. So, the main question I got today, I guess there's a lot of talk about bubbles and popping. Well, we already know that the no sales or very low sales, those bubbles have popped. For good, you never know. You never know. We try not to predict the actual timing on these things for those because they're insane. All we told you weeks and weeks ago is eventually what would happen, and they crashed a bunch of them. I can tell you they bounced a little today. But to give you an example, OKLO closed at 96 today. It was 193, 1, 2, 3, 4, less than 5 weeks ago. And that's kind of a good one. What is that, down about 45%? Yeah. So be careful. We don't know exactly how those play out, but leave no doubt there's 40 to 70% drops in these names. Here's a 55er, LAC, 10.5 down to 5. What is that, about 50? Yeah, 50, it's in the 50s. And those rare earth things, I mean, holy crap. And then you have how about BMNR? It's gone from 161 to 32. And it, by the way, is down from $65 in early October. So that's down 50% just from early October, but went to 161 back in June. Off, I guess, the start of when they decided to take I guess it was a SPAC, one of those things. So I think a lot of that's popped. Here's one, USA Rare Earth, no sales, 44 to 15. And by the way, when we say to you go back where it came from, the stock traded between 10 and 20 for 9 months before it went to $44. It's back to 15. And it's still a $1.2 billion market cap with no sales. And again, we're not ribbing on these companies. We're just letting you know the markets. We're letting you know the markets. How about 32 down to 8? Something critical metals. 32 down to 8. But it was $1 in May. Another SPAC at $10 that went down to $1 and change, and all of a sudden they talk about lithium metals. They rallied it to 32.15. It's 8. That sounds like about 70-something%. So those bubbles popped. But do I think we've popped the whole AI thing? I think there are some things. Well, look, if a CoreWeave goes from 180 to 74, you would think that's 187 to 74. I would suggest, and we can call it whatever you want, bubble or not, doesn't matter. We're dealing with price here. Let's just say I think something's up, and the mothership is tomorrow after the close, and we'll get a little bit more feel. We may, years from now, we may look back, because I'm questioning right now, Oracle. Again, let me repeat, and oft mentioned, they announced numbers like I couldn't believe. I went to 345 from 220 right after a report. It's back to 220. So we're going to look back and say, oh, that, I don't know. I just want to deal in real time, and all I can tell you in real time, there's some holy crap moves in some names you would not expect. I expect that from some of that no sales and money lose. So stay tuned. It's been wicked. We've been mostly ETF bound the last few weeks, and it's still been a pain in the you-know-what. Stocks, the moves, up, down, amazing. And right now, a little bit a decently amount on the downside. Other things we worry, the financials, but they bounced today. But go look at MasterCard and Visa stock. Gives me pause. And of course, other financials we have mentioned. Always the optimist, but always the realist. We're keeping watch in what we consider to be a real pain in the rear end. And I think we mentioned tomorrow, Adam will be doing the show. We will be hosting, I think it's the 23rd or 24th, Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida Kaltbaum Family Thanksgiving Dinner. Will be serving 300 great youth from the clubs a Thanksgiving dinner. It has been our honor. And by the way, we did come up with the idea also. Well, pat myself on the back. And as we say during the holidays, by the way, I'm losing my voice. If able, think about doing something for somebody you need absolutely nothing from. I promise you, you'll feel good about it. Have a great evening. Drive carefully. When you get home, do like we do. Quite simple. Make sure you hug your family. Make sure you hug your children. They will feel better. You will feel better. Stay well. Be well. Have a good night, all. Bye-bye.